What is up, guys? Welcome to a brand new The Batman Discussion Series video, and I think, by the way, it's been, I think it's been like 5 weeks or so. So it's been a while since the last one. So for this video, I've got quite a few leftover questions that I'm going to get to. For those of you who left a comment quite a while ago, maybe your one is going to pop up in today's video. But just to let you know, I will be doing another community post for new questions going into the future. As you know, I do these a little bit few and far between now. I don't want to leave it 5+ weeks, going on 2 months before we do one of these again. But as you can tell, I've been in the process of moving. If you can hear a bit of echo in this video, it will be sorted out. I've got a bunch of acoustic boarding for the walls and whatnot. So yeah, I hope you like the background for now. It will get better in the back as well. Hopefully alongside Vader there as well, we can get a Robert Pattinson Batman statue. But also I wanted to give a little bit of an update with the Riddler Year 1 comic. Very briefly, and that is that Stevan Subic on Twitter has posted a little bit of a preview with him saying he is coming. Don't forget that this is releasing October 25th, and we are going to do a breakdown on the channel, issue by issue. This is canon. It is a prequel to the Batman, obviously Riddler Year 1. So I'm just looking forward to seeing what goodies we get in this. And it's written by Paul Dano, the Riddler himself. So of course, make sure you stay subscribed to the channel for that. But let's get into question number 1. But before we do, would really appreciate a like. As always, it helps boost these videos out there. Lets me know as well that you guys are still enjoying the discussion series. But up first, in no particular order, Henry Gao, I hope that's how you pronounce that. As always, guys, I butcher the names. Boba, since there's not a lot of discussion about the Penguin HBO Max series, what do you think about the ventriloquist and Scarface being potentially the main villains of the show? I also wonder if Penguin will go up against other underrated Batman villains such as Maxie Zeus, who owns Olympus nightclub in Gotham, for being potential rivals. What are your thoughts? Love the videos. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Henry. So with the Penguin show, it's very hard to know exactly what villains we're gonna get. I mean, there's rumors, as you've heard. What if it's ventriloquist and Scarface? I believe there has been rumors about that from the top of my head. But also, one of them was Golden Age Clayface. That's something that personally excites me. But as for other underrated Batman villains, I definitely think that will be the case. Similar to, Batman the Animated Series or characters coming from that, I do believe that we could just get random characters. Ones that haven't really even been delved into in other comic book stories out there, outside of maybe being a background character in that of the criminal element in Gotham City. So I do think Matt Reeves will do that. I do think he will also bring in some original characters into Gotham, because I'm fine with that. Innovation, this is a whole cesspool of a city, as Riddler puts it, so there's got to be all kinds of characters that Matt Reeves can do there. I could definitely see Maxie Zeus being done, obviously in a very modernized way versus that of some of the iterations in the source material. He could just be a proper baller in Gotham City in the criminal world who just goes by that name. I mean, sure, he could have an Olympus-themed nightclub or something like that, but I would love to know. I'm going to kind of leave the floor open to everyone in this comment section right now. What characters do you think will be rivaling Penguin in this series? I mean, maybe it sounds so predictable or too typical to say that, of course, Penguin's got to land on top. He's going to become the Kingpin. But that's going to happen at some point. But who is he going to face on the way there? I feel like it's too easy to say Black Mask. Not that I'm saying he won't be in it, but I'm just trying to identify other characters. Will we actually see a Golden Age Clayface? Why would he be in it? Would he be hired? Are they going to tie Penguin into getting the very chemically kind of putty makeup that is given to Clayface in some iterations of the source material? I do think it would be pretty cool if Matt maybe brought out the offspring of Carmine Falcone, because he's got a few kids, but then there's also maybe the Maroni kids, because maybe they were too scared to go up against Falcone when he was in power, because after all, Falcone was the rat. Not that they knew that, but they wouldn't have challenged Falcone when he was the mayor for the past 20 years. But now, if they see Oz, so they think, I reckon I could take my father's seat of power, or Maroni, his previous seat of power. So that is something I haven't actually thought about before. But if I do say so myself, that could actually be a possibility. Maybe Maroni's kids, Falcone's kids. But then again, there are plenty of bosses in Gotham. So let me know who you think we might see. Don't forget that HBO Max's The Penguin is filming February 2023. At least that's what they're aiming for. So not too long now. And you can bet your ass we're going to be covering any set photos or anything like that when we finally get them on the channel. So up next is from NH Geek saying, "Hey Boba, really love your channel. Thank you so much, man. I just wanted to ask if you think like in the third film or something, we could see like a Neil Adams color scheme, obviously toned down a bit, or just keep the Batsuit black." Now we've gone over this a few times. Now the reason why I wanted to bring this up again is because I'm sure always there's new viewers who, you know, miss previous videos, but a good artist that I've been using his artwork with his permission, of course, on the channel for the longest time is known as Jackson Durr, and he uploaded 5 days ago, I believe, from making this video, this Batsuit. So it's somewhat of a revised Batsuit, and I wanted to include it because obviously you said the Neil Adams color scheme, and this could be a way of achieving that. Now, I still hold my thoughts of that in this iteration. As much as this suit looks great, I'm sure many of you are like, oh man, like damn, that looks great. I know many of you want white eyes. Some of you may say, I love this suit but without the white eyes because I love the emotion conveyed in Batman's eyes. Whatever your perspective is, I still feel like no matter how badass, how freaking badass this subtle, as you put it, like a little tone of blue on the suit is, I just don't know if Matt Reeves will go there. He very well could. I could be wrong. I'm not even saying that he won't. It's just my intuition is telling me that it will still maintain a similar black gray in the torso and all those places, but you never know. You never know. I only say it because if you go fully blue, it's just, you know, in this well, it's not real world, but in this kind of grounded universe, black is the best. The darker colors, the dark grayish. If you go blue, it's like, it's not exactly yellow, so you don't stand out. So yeah, as you said, you can have a lower tone, as seen in this photo. And that is the way I think if he's going to do it, it would look something like this, where you still predominantly, and I think I've always said this, have the black. In a lot of camera shots in certain lighting, it will still look black. But like in Batman the Animated Series, sometimes when the light shines on Batman, you have that kind of, the way the artist does the shading, a little bit of a blue. And the way the light hits it in this photo, of Jackson Durr's photo, I do think it could be done that way. And that's the best way to achieve it in a realistic modern day movie without Matt Reeves wanting to go too fantastical. So obviously he wouldn't have a proper dyed blue cape or cowl, but if he was gonna go there, it would look something like this. So I would say like there's a 60-40% chance. That's where I'm landing. 60% maybe not, but 40%, you know, is a big probability for me with regards to if it's toned down to this shade. Maybe, just maybe. And as you said, doesn't even have to be the second film. You could progressively get there. It could be the third film. It would still have to look cool. It couldn't look too classical Batman. So that's why I love Jackson Durr's artist interpretation of this concept suit here for the sequel or the third film, because it still looks really tanky. It still looks like he can be protected. It doesn't look too classical cheesy. It's just subtly done. And also notice how he's put a little bit of yellow around the bat emblem there, some yellow trimmings here and there. I think it looks so good. And this is what I would point towards, ultimately, final word on this. If it's gonna be done, it will be something like this. Maybe not the white eyes, even though those white eyes look badass there. Like, I wanna say that again, they look badass. I would still opt out, just because even though it would be so cool, I prefer the emotion that gets conveyed through eyes. One way of combating this is if, as of when the technology improves, then maybe, just maybe, when he's using night vision or something like that, they slide down. Kind of like if any of you have seen Batwoman. I mean, I didn't watch too much of it, but whenever she went into night vision or something like that, the little white slits came down above her eyes. That would be a genius way of doing it, pleasing both fans. Let me know what you think of all of this. Great question, NH Geek. And I wanted to revisit this ultimately again because I don't think I've seen as good of a modern interpretation of a concept art of a bluish, toned down blue suit in the Batman trilogy. Up next from Dark Bat Productions. Wow, I think this is the longest question so far. So Dark Bat Productions says hashtag the Gotham Project. Nice one. That means you made it to the end of one of the previous videos. Hey Boba, keep up the awesome content. I cannot wait for the Batman 2. I just have a few theories regarding the movie and its sequel. Firstly, about Bruce's training. The line Alfred says to Bruce in the hospital about teaching him how to fight also seems quite vague to me, as we never truly know the extent of Bruce's training, depending on whether or not the prequel book is canon. Now, I'm just going to interject there. That's how I feel about it as well. The prequel book, it is called a prequel novel or whatever, yet it is aimed at kids. It does say, I believe, in the description or at the bottom, inspired by the Batman. That's why I always say take it as loose canon. Don't take it as like, you know, I feel like if I spoke to Matt Reeves, did this happen? Did this happen? I imagine him saying something like, yeah, sure. Like, I'm not saying this or that or everything happened, but I can imagine something like that happened with my Robert Pattinson Bruce, something along that way. But maybe he might not say like, you know, this happened, period. This happened, period. That's why I feel like it isn't necessarily canon in every single way, so you shouldn't take, oh, he went to this university and he dropped out of that course and he went to another country and went to this university. And in each university he went to in his higher education, he sought out a new fighting mentor, because that's what happened in that prequel book. I think that's great. It's a fantastic way of getting into his training in a traditionalist way of Batman, and how he did go to multiple tutors. And in this book, he went to multiple tutors through studying different courses. That's how he got so good at chemistry. Whenever he got bored, he went on to something else. He aced every class. But yeah, we just don't know. But anyway, continuing, of course, in Batman Earth 1, Alfred is the only teacher that Bruce has. But here, we don't truly know how long Alfred taught Bruce. It could have been from when he was a kid to an adult, or from kid to teenager before leaving Gotham to travel and train in the mountains. I think Alfred's line is meant to be left up to the interpretation of the interpretation, considering that Batman in the movie fights like a martial artist while still making mistakes as he's only human, but is also strategic with his strikes and stealthy with his takedowns and can use enemies' weapons against them. It reminds me of the combat from Batman Arkham Asylum, actually, completely agree, as we see in the hallway fight in the Iceberg Lounge, and when he's getting the drop on the Riddler's gang towards the end of the movie. Yeah, just nail on the head there. Before moving on with your question, I do agree with how it arguably is probably designed to be left open to interpretation, which is why I don't know if we're going to get lines or remarks every now and again, you know, oh, where did you learn that? Or like, how did you do it? And then Bruce, that's quite on the nose. I feel just like how, you know, in the movie with regards to, did Falcone really kill the Waynes? It was that day Thomas Wayne went to Falcone saying that he was going to confess everything because he was distraught after learning that Falcone killed Edward Elliot, and that same day they went out with Bruce and they died. But again, Alfred says, but I just don't know for sure. Could have been a random thug too desperate. So that's open to interpretation, and I love that because it makes us hardcore Batman fans think, was it Falcone? Or was it just a random thug? Or was it still the random thug Joe Chill hired by Falcone? Like, it's just, what's it gonna be? So the same thing here with that training. He said I trained you as a boy, but did Bruce develop on that? Did he go away in a similar way in the prequel novel? We don't know. But again, what I love about Batman's combat is, even if Alfred did train him, that is pretty decent in like a Batman Earth 1 way. He is proficient. Alfred, as a special forces dude, in like you said, in his days in the circus, he knows how to fight. Someone like that knows how to fight. The thing that somewhat supports in how it could have just been Alfred's training is that Batman does sometimes get punched. Even though you could say on the totally opposite end, he still got training from multiple different martial artists and different types of martial arts or whatever, yet he's still only human and he still gets punched because he's also got a long way to go as Batman. It's that interpretation which sometimes incites fascination in us fans, but I wouldn't mind it being expanded upon. I don't necessarily need the full answer, but maybe, yeah, like a one-off line saying, oh, was that your time in Nanda Parbat, Bruce? Or something like that. Anyway, secondly, about the time period in which the Batman takes place in. I remember a while back there was a set image that revealed that the Batman took place in 2019. I've watched the movie several times and I couldn't find evidence in the film itself that it took place in 2019, and Bruce's journal only reveals the dates October 31st. and November 6th, but no year. I would assume that the movie takes place in 2019, but then it could easily be timeless considering that there is a mixture of old and new technology along with the style of the buildings and the range and car models, just like Batman the Animated Series and Gotham. I was about to say, I didn't know if you were going to mention Gotham, but yeah, Gotham achieves that very well. I'm not too sure here, but just a thought. I think it takes place in 2021. I would need to look this up again. I feel like Matt Reeves did say it's meant to be more or less present day. The movie was supposed to come out in 2021 at the 2020 DC Fandom. The trailer says, in production, 20, question mark 0, question mark 1. So I think it was meant to be 2021, or it still is. It's just it came out in 2022. Sure, it could be 2019, but irrespective of dates in like the past 3 years or whatever, it is supposed to be present day. No matter what their, smartphones, this, that, and the other. Of course, they still pay attention to giving it a little bit of a timeless feel with certain other bits and pieces you may see around the city, cars, maybe even equipment. As I said, and as you said, Gotham does that so very, very well. My personal thought is that it is basically 2021. Just 2021 in this other DC Earth 29 or 2 or whatever. Bottom line, just know that it is taking place in modern day or modern time if you want to skim off a year or two. So lastly, the release date of the Batman 2. Okay, so yeah, this was, I guess, a while ago, this comment with regards to how we've learned a little bit more about that, and I've spoken about it a bit more in recent videos, but I'm thinking Reeves wouldn't want to make the audiences wait too long for the sequel and could release in 2024. The reason why I think this is because the Penguin spin-off show is supposedly filming right now. Correction, again, old comment, fair enough, filming February and will lead into the sequel, and so Penguin could hypothetically release in early 2023, which I still think is the case. I argue it could be spring to summer 2023, but they might wait till the fall. Of course, we don't know when the Arkham spin-off is coming either, if that gets picked up as well. Yep, right now, the latest update as of like a week or two ago, the Arkham series at HBO Max is just still in the discussion phase, and the Batman 2 is either mid or late 2024. Sequels typically tend to release 2 or 3 years after the previous installment, unless it's Avatar, The Way of Water, and Top Gun Maverick, definitely. And considering that Reeves has a trilogy planned, most likely he's already brainstorming ideas for the sequel. Yet, as of right now, should I say a week or so ago, whenever I did that update, the Batman 2 major news, Matt Reeves and Mattson Tomlin were to start it any week now. So by the time I'm filming this, they should actually be actively going into work every day and writing a script, which again, I need to cool myself here because I can rave and rave about how I wish I was a fly on that wall. Right now, they're thinking about how is the movie going. I mean, I don't know their writing process, but they could be thinking about how are we going to mirror the intro scene from the first movie with another Gotham Project journal entry or something like that. I just wish I was there. But anyway, back to the comment. Of course, this depends on how long it takes for him to finish writing the script, but if he finishes writing by late 2022, then they might be able to start filming in early 2023 and finish mid to late 2023, assuming the pandemic doesn't grow any worse, and slate for a 2024 release, which would also be the 85th anniversary of Batman and thus very fitting. Originally, the Batman was slated for July 2021, and they started production in early 2020 before having shut down and delayed the movie because of the pandemic. If there was no pandemic, then the movie would have probably finished production by mid to late 2020 and would have released sooner than expected. Of course, this is just another thought of mine. I know this is a lot, but I appreciate you taking the time to read through all of this. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sending that in. So just to address the last of that, the 85th anniversary of Batman. So getting to the larger zooming out of all of this, the thing about 2024, I definitely think things will be properly swinging by then. Don't get me wrong. And there is no major restrictions as of right now with the pandemic. Like, fingers crossed nothing takes over the world like that again. It would be a lot quicker than the first movie's production in terms of rolling this movie out. But I don't think, because we've got October Joker 2 Folie à Deux, I think the movie wouldn't be ready until the fall of 2024. And because Joker is releasing in October, sure, you could say that the Batman 2 could have a December release date, which would be awesome, especially if you have like a villain like Mr. Freeze or something like that. It's very, very hard to know. At the moment, let me say beforehand, I was always going for a full 2024, October to December, like the original release date of October for the Batman 2021 at the time. But now I'm somewhat leaning towards 2025, a similar release date in the, March, ish time. But I wouldn't completely rule out 2024. They could have a major success with Joker in October, wait till November, wait till December, and then release it, I don't know, 17th, 18th night. But then again, I'm just not entirely confident with that. So similar to like the 60-40 thing I was saying before, 60% of me, or maybe a little bit over that, is leaning towards early 2025. I wouldn't want to wait until a summer release. The thing is, right now, we just don't know. I mean, again, so much is depending on different things constantly in flux. Like, how long is it going to be until the script is greenlit? You know, they might send a draft, but then they might want to go back on it and write it. And once that's finally greenlit, then it moves into full, you know, they bankroll the production. Again, you gave an estimate for that in terms of, you know, might be able to start filming in early 2023 if they finish writing the script by the end of 2022. That could be done. I mean, they're working on it every day, but at the same time, if it takes longer, it would likely dip to 2025, early 2025. But again, I leave the floor to everyone else. Obviously, this is a little bit of an outdated comment with some of the hypothesis regarding the release date. And just going off on how it's already September now, giving a bit of time and leeway for the script to be written, and then if production takes place next year at some point, I do think it will overlap till 2025, but let me know what you guys think. So up next from Cody Zombie Wrecker, and you say, do you think that the Arkham series should feature names like Jonathan Crane, Hugo Strange, or even Harley Quinn as a part of its main cast? It's a tough one. I don't think it could be too many characters. I do think there is easily room for, as we know with the Batman universe, with the way Matt Reeves is tackling it, a lot of the characters that we haven't seen yet, or the ones that we know about he's been up against, even of whom haven't got their moniker, is Joker. He's in Arkham. Sure, there could be one or two, but, you know, Joker was put away in Batman Year 1. How many other people could he have really put away? You know, the Riddler was Year 2. That was his second serial killer. Batman Year 1 was Joker, his first serial killer. He's described as another, you know, a killer. So I don't think, other than fighting criminals and, you know, spending, you know, 2 years of nights turning into a nocturnal animal, he could have put away Crane and this person and that person. So everyone else would be more or less at their introduction. So if we did see a doctor in Arkham or a head of psychology or whatever, Jonathan Crane is the one I would want to pick for Arkham. Hugo, I know, is a perfect fit. He could be the head. And you could even have Harley Quinn there as a psychologist as well. But I don't imagine Matt Reeves is going to tackle all of these important characters all at the same time on different roads. As amazing as that would be, I just don't think that's going to happen. So I think it might be just one or two, in addition to Barry Keoghan's Joker being in a cell already. Same with Riddler. It also depends. You know, is this going to be a bit of a prequel and then going into present time and then sequel? Like, is it going to span a spectrum of time like that? Or is it going to be something else entirely? I would love Crane because it would be cool if he was experimenting with fear gas on patients or something like that. The same can be applied for Hugo with experimentations, but then again, Barry Keoghan's Joker, you could have Harleen there. But then again, they might want to avoid that, even though it's completely a different film, completely unrelated to it, but Joker 2 with Joaquin Phoenix is literally about Joker, but with Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn. And that's about Folie à Deux, a shared madness, basically a very low-key adaptation of Mad Love. So I don't know what they're going to do with Joker yet. That's anyone's guess. So I feel like we have to look at other characters for now. So my best bet is that it could likely feature a prolific character. And that could either be Hugo, Jonathan, Crane, someone like that. Jonathan would be my bet for now. Hugo is a very close first or, you know, second. Not to mention other inmates, because my idea of this is an anthology-esque series, episode to episode, but eventually it connects. But each episode may be a different perspective from a patient, a different perspective from just a janitor in Arkham witnessing something. Maybe Jonathan Crane experimenting the next episode or the episode after that. You actually get the perspective from Dr. Crane, and then the storylines kind of converge. I don't know, ultimately. We've been over this a few times, but who would you like? And I'm asking, again, a lot of these questions today in the discussion series, I leave the floor to you. Who do you realistically, like dead ass realistically think we could see in terms of a prolific character in the Arkham series. Obviously, I would say leave Joker and Riddler out of this just in case they do pop up in very small guest appearances or maybe even bigger, who knows. But as for the introduction of certain characters, don't get carried away when you answer saying, oh, they're going to do Crane, they're going to do Hugo, they're going to do Harley, all that, because I just don't think that's realistic to tackle 3 major characters like that. I know that sounds kind of weird because we have Penguin, Falcone, and all of these other big characters in the first Batman movie, all at the same time. So, there is some wiggle room there, but I would just recommend not to get too carried away. And also bear in mind this is the early stages. So Crane could have his chemical compound for fear toxin, but he's still perfecting it. So he isn't even fully the Scarecrow yet. So go along that lines. That's why I think that could be realistic, but so could Hugo. Hugo could be a devious, overlord of Arkham already. Leave those suggestions down in the comments. Really looking forward to reading those. But up next we have from No Vengeance. Do you think Bruce could end up in Arkham like in the Telltale series? In the first movie, it's shown that Martha was in Arkham and had been placed in the institution herself on multiple occasions. Do you think this could be a foreshadowing? Not necessarily. I think if there's any kind of symbolic aspect out there, to be Batman and have kind of this alter ego in where truly he is a bit of Batman and Bruce Wayne, there is some mental stuff going on there. So I think the symbolic aspect is that there is some maybe shared genetics with his mother there. I'm not saying he's crazy or anything like that, but I don't think it's to the extent of him going to Arkham like Bruce does in the Telltale series. But speaking of the Telltale series, I do see this Bruce in terms of his public persona going out there more like the Bruce in the Telltale series, who isn't like, Christian Bale swimming in the hotel pool lobby, as I always mention as an example, and, really going off as, playboy billionaire Bruce Wayne. They might go there a little bit, but I don't think Matt Reeves is going to go ham in that. I think this Bruce is going to be more like the Telltale series, who is just trying to help, but will be a little bit more timid than the Telltale series. But in terms of going to Arkham like the Telltale series, I don't see that happening. I mean, that would be a straight up adaptation of Batman Telltale. Okay, and the last question for today's video, because I've got some more unpacking and things to do, even though this is probably long enough already for some of you. So Thomas Rakewell says, on the Joker issue, and I think this comment was taken from quite a while back in a discussion series where some people were saying they really don't like the look of the Joker, and I was going into how it was more specifically saying this isn't Joker at all. And I was explaining how, well, a lot of people usually say that when the Joker they're looking at, for example, like Barry Keoghan's Joker, isn't like the smooth chiseled chin, kind of pretty white, red lipstick Joker, as super traditionally he is, conveyed as. But that doesn't mean there aren't horrific Jokers out there. So I just don't like it where people say usually, oh, that's not Batman at all. It's just like there's multiple different iterations of Batman. It's just the reason why you're saying that is it's not the Batman you have absorbed as your cornerstone Batman. It's the same thing with Barry Keoghan's Joker. Every Joker is relevant. I would just say have a preference, but don't set it as a precedent. Like the Joker is always to be like this. There can never be anything else. So Thomas Rakewell expands on this by saying, on the Joker issue, I think it would be outright sad if we were beholden to any particular version of the Joker from the past. One of the great things about the Joker is that the interpretations of him have been so different. So I'm with Boba that there isn't one Joker. I also trust Matt Reeves a lot. The Batman for me is the best Batman film yet. That said, I just hate the look of this Joker. I just hate it. Maybe that's the point, and it's meant to repel us as the audience. In which case, okay, let's see where it goes, I guess. But the design of all the other characters has been great right from the first looks. Joker, for me, no. Which is fair enough. I'm glad that I highlighted this comment because this is a comment of a person who doesn't like the Joker design. Thomas doesn't like it, but he doesn't mind the fact that there are different interpretations. You can have preferences, but sometimes even I appreciate the insight you have here with regards to maybe that's the point. It's meant to repel us. And don't get me wrong, let me say this as well. My preference, rather than cornerstone or precedent for the Joker, because again, that doesn't exist to me, is more of the clown or like the man who laughs comic. I'm probably showing the comic book cover on screen. The man who laughs, that is my ideal Joker, something like that. But I don't hate Barry Keoghan's Joker design at all. I actually quite like it, but it's meant to be, as you say, it's probably meant to repel us. We're probably not meant to like it. you know, other than if you kind of just like the grimacing, disgusting look of, you know, how crooked and ripped and peeling his skin is. And I respect that. And as you said, I trust Matt Reeves a lot. I think his angle on this character, and he's spoken about the Joker a lot as well in director's commentary and other things like that, with how ultimately I think his angle is basically, he's meant to be scary. He knows people get uncomfortable when looking at him, and he has got used to that over the years, and he actually wields it as a tool, you know, no pun intended there. So I do get it. I do get why people might hate it, dislike it, wish it was something else. But for me, I still see a relevant Joker design there. I love the concept of a congenital disease, kind of making it like a stiff smile there. And despite disliking it, like Thomas does here, I wish more people, and this isn't me like hating on anyone, I'm just saying, like, I wish more people would perhaps adopt the open mindset that despite disliking it, that it's still, bottom line, the only thing I'm addressing here is that it's still a relevant take. It's still a Joker. You don't have to like it, doesn't have to be a preference, but to say it isn't Joker just isn't really a right thing to say, at least from where I stand. As I always say, with adaptations, innovate, don't deviate. I need to print a shirt with that, because if you had the Joker, the reason where it separates from what I'm saying is, you know, it's still a relevant take, even if you dislike it or it's not your preference. But there's a point of innovation where it can go to deviation. If you made the Joker wear a bright yellow Power Ranger costume, he's got like hair down to his toes like Rapunzel, and it's dyed pink and yellow or something, you would say, yeah, that's not Joker, even though it's a different take. That actually isn't. So that's what I'm trying to point out there. As long as it's got, you know, veins of the character, which Barry Keoghan's Joker most certainly does. The thing that most people don't like about it is the grotesque look. They want more of the classical man who laughs look or killing joke look, right? But yeah, it's far from the Rapunzel example I just gave. So yeah, just wanted to kind of spark that conversation alive again from this old comment. Thanks for sending that in, Thomas. So let me know what you think of that and everything in this video, guys, because I am going to end this discussion series there. So thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you liked this video, as always, I know this is a repeated thing across every video, but please like it. It really does help out the channel. And if you're feeling like supporting the channel the extra mile, we now have a super thanks feature. Check that out. By all means, you don't have to, but it really does go a long way to supporting the channel. Also, Patreon, Teespring store for Boba merch is in the description down below, as well as following me on social media. Today's hashtag for those who got this far is simply hashtag he, so type that with whatever comment you were going to put anyway. But I think I'm going to love you and leave you now, guys. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, Bat family, in the next video. Goodbye.